Welcome to this topic, reproduction. So this topic is going to be done in 4 videos. So the first video is going to be about introduction to reproduction and asexual reproduction. Basically it is this video. The next video it's going to be about sexual reproduction in plants. Then we're going to conclude with 2 more videos that are going to be focused on sexual reproduction in animals. So what is reproduction? Reproduction is just a process by which living organisms produce their offsprings. Offsprings are younger ones. So there are 2 types of reproduction. There is what is called sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction, the definition is it is a type of reproduction where one parent produces one or more genetically identical offspring by mitosis without involving the fusion of gametes. Okay, so in short, asexual reproduction involves one parent. Okay, and the type of offsprings that are produced during asexual reproduction are genetically identical, meaning that they are made of the same genes. Okay, they are like twins, so to put it. Okay, then the process that helps asexual reproduction to happen is mitosis. There is no any fusion of gametes, meaning there are no 2 gametes that meet. Gametes are sexual reproductive cells. In males, for example, in humans, sperms, and then in females, ovaries. So there's no point where ovaries and sperms meet to make sure that an offspring is made. So that's what asexual reproduction is. So let's what are some of the advantages of asexual reproduction? So here are the advantages. The first one is a mate is not required for offspring to be produced. Okay, so there's no need for an organism to look for a mate, or for a male organism to look for a female organism, or a female organism to look for a male organism. There is no such. Okay, so because of that, a given organism can easily reproduce without the hassle of looking for a mate. Second, large numbers of offspring can be produced in a short time. Okay, so asexual reproduction results in the production of lots of offsprings in a short time. Also, desirable features of parents are passed on to the offsprings unchanged. So if this parent has a beauty face, that beauty face can be passed by to the offspring. Why? Because the offspring is exactly as the parent. There's no difference. Okay, it makes it possible to grow new plants of certain species even when seeds fail. Okay, because of asexual reproductions, some plants, maybe if there are no seeds, they can the plant can be easily grown without need for seeds. Okay, so it helps us to make sure that we are able to have certain kinds of plants being grown even if their seeds are not helping. It can take place even in harsh environmental conditions. Okay, so unlike sexual reproduction, which might need good environmental conditions, asexual can take place even in harsh environmental conditions. Also, there is no pollination and dispersal agency required for plants. So in the next video we're going to learn about pollination and dispersal, which are 2 processes that help plants to to reproduce and all. So for asexual reproduction, there is no need for what are called pollination and dispersal agents, which are other environmental conditions or organisms that helps these 2 processes to occur. Okay, so because these things are not needed, so it is easier than sexual reproduction in plants. However, there are also disadvantages. Okay, so some of the disadvantages of asexual reproduction include undesirable features of parents are passed on to the offspring unchanged. So if this parent has a feature that they don't like, for example, if they are tall and they don't like to be tall, okay, so this undesirable feature is going to be passed to it's going to be passed to the offspring. The offspring is also going to be undesirably tall. Okay, so undesirable features are passed to the offsprings. Also, there is lack of genetic variation, which makes it difficult to adapt to a variety of habitats. Okay, since the way the parent is the same way the offsprings are going to be. So if there is a change in the environment, for example, if the environment has become too dry, and maybe plants that are able to have longer roots to go deep into the soil to look for water are the ones that can survive. This plant, which produces asexually, which has shorter roots, which cannot go deep into the soil, can die, and its offsprings are also going to die, meaning that that species of a plant can be extinct. It often leads to overcrowding and competition for resources, since asexual reproduction involves the ability to produce lots of offsprings in a short time. If this huge number of offsprings are produced, they can start competing for resources, for light, for water, for food. So because of that, it becomes an advantage. It becomes one disadvantage of asexual reproduction. So examples of asexual reproduction include binary fission, multiple fission, budding, fragmentation, spore formation. So we're going to take a look at each of these, maybe apart from multiple fission, since it is exactly the same as binary fission. Also, vegetative propagation. So we're going to take a look at binary fission, we're going to take a look at budding, we're going to take a look at fragmentation, we're going to take a look at spore formation and vegetative propagation. That's why we're going to end this video. So let's start with binary fission. So what is binary fission? So binary fission, binary means two, fission means breaking apart. Okay, so this is a type of asexual reproduction where one parent cell divides into two daughter cells. So this parent cell, it divides into two, so it will form two, it breaks into two, so one organism becomes two organisms. Okay, so this is how binary fission occurs. Okay, so I'll do a diagram for you to understand. So the stages that are involved in binary fission are: one, the parent cell first grows bigger by increasing the amount of cytoplasm. Okay, so the amount of cytoplasm is going to be increased, and the cell is going to become bigger. When it becomes that big, the next stage is its DNA is going to replicate, and the nucleus undergoes mitosis, resulting in the formation of two daughter nuclei. Okay, so the DNA is going to make itself, okay, so that there are two. Okay, then after that, the nucleus will undergo mitosis so that it divides, it breaks into two, it forms two nuclei. Okay, nuclei is plural for nucleus. So if we have one or more nucleus, we say nuclei. So it will form two nuclei. Okay, so each nuclei is going to have its own DNA, the same type of DNA. Then after that, when the nucleus, when we have two nuclei, what happens is the cell membrane constricts, thereby dividing the cytoplasm into two, so that each nuclei is surrounded by its own cytoplasm. So after the cytoplasm has grown, after the nucleus has divided into two nuclei, the cell membrane is going to constrict so that each nucleus has its own cell membrane. Okay, then after that, the two daughter cells separate. Then binary fission has occurred. So this type of reproduction occurs in bacteria and amoeba. So there are these two organisms, bacteria and amoeba. They're the ones that do binary fission. So let me just show you the diagram. So this is the diagram that illustrates binary fission. Okay, we have got this full-grown amoeba cell. So this, the first stage, remember, is the cytoplasm has to grow. So this is the stage where the cell becomes bigger. Then after that, the nucleus has to divide, form two nuclei. So these are the two nuclei. Okay, so after the two nuclei have been formed, the next stage is the cell membrane has to constrict here so that it surrounds this nucleus and this nucleus. So this is that stage. Then after that, the two cells break to form two daughter cells. Okay, so one parent cell divides and it turns into two daughter cells. Next is budding. So this is a type of asexual reproduction where a parent cell or body of an organism develops an outgrowth called a bud, which increases in size and eventually detaches from the parent to become an independent organism. Okay, so examples of organisms that carry out budding is yeast. So to understand how budding is, maybe diagrams are going to be very helpful. So by the way, a group of undetached buds is called a colony. Okay, so if there are lots of buds that have detached from the parent or from the organism, they make up what is called a colony. So this is how budding occurs. We have a parent cell, just like the way it happened in binary fission. The nucleus, of course, is going to divide to form two nuclei. Then after that, we're going to have this situation. So the cell membrane is going to surround this and to surround this. Okay, but the way it's going to be is there is the parent cell and there is a very small cell being formed. It's not like the parent cell is going to divide into two cells. No, the daughter cell or the new organism that is being formed is going to just form from the parent cell. Okay, like this. Okay, we can see we have the parent cell here and the immature small cell, which is called a bud. Okay, then with time this immature cell is going to grow to become like this. This is a mature bud. So when it grows, now it can leave its parent. Just like us, when you grow up, you have to leave your parent. It will detach from the parent and it becomes an independent organism. To put this into perspective, this is for cells, but let's take a look at a situation where it's a full-grown organism, how it occurs. So we can have this organism. So a bud can start to form here. Okay, so this bud, it will reach a point where it will mature. As you can see, when it matures, it looks like its parent. So when it matures, slowly it will start to fall off and it will detach completely. It will become an independent organism. Okay, so these are the four stages that are involved in budding. Next is spore formation. This one we are a bit familiar, as we were familiar with it because we discussed it during nutrition. So this is a type of asexual reproduction where an organism forms what are called spores. Spores are microscopic round structure produced asexually in very large numbers and are capable of germinating when conditions are favorable. Okay, so they are normally produced when conditions are not favorable for sexual reproduction and are dispersed by winds. So this spore formation occurs in these plants when this plant cannot produce seeds. Okay, because the conditions are not favorable in that environment, or when seeds are being produced but maybe it's too dry, so germination cannot occur. So what these plants do is they will form these round structures called spores. When they form these spores, maybe when wind passes, these spores are going to be carried from that unfavorable environmental conditions to another environment where the conditions are favorable, and that's where they're going to grow. Okay, so that's how spore formation happens. So examples of organisms that produce spores are the fungi, muca, and rhizopas. I think by rhizopas you have remembered why I said we discussed this during nutrition. So let's take a look at these organisms which do spore formation. Okay, so these are spores and a group of them forms what is called a sporangia. Okay, so when wind passes, this can burst and they can be carried by the wind and they can be taken somewhere where they can grow if they are not able to reproduce in this environment. So this is how spore formation occurs. Next is fragmentation. So this is a type of asexual reproduction where pieces cut from an organism develop into independent organisms. Okay, so you have got this organism, you cut its parts, then each part can develop into an independent organism. So this occurs in flatworms and spawns. So flatworms, you can cut a flatworm, and the two cut parts can also develop into worms. Okay, so this is fragmentation. The last one is vegetative propagation. So vegetative propagation refers to asexual reproduction in flowering plants, where new plants are grown from vegetative parts of a plant, such as roots, stems, and leaves, without involving seeds. So a plant has parts which are vegetative, which they're capable of growing when you cut them or you do some things to them. Okay, so I'm talking about roots, stems, and leaves. Okay, so this vegetative propagation involves getting a part of the plant and producing a new plant. Okay, so there are two types of vegetative propagation. There is natural vegetative propagation and artificial vegetative propagation. Natural vegetative propagation occurs through natural means, while artificial involves human-made methods. So a lot of flowering plants can naturally propagate themselves vegetatively using underground structures called perinating organs, which enable plants to survive from year to year. Okay, so lots of plants have got underground organs called perinating organs. These organs help them survive even when these plants cannot produce sexual, or when they are unable to produce seeds. So what are some of the features of these perinating organs? Okay, the features of these perinating organs includes buds. They have what are called buds. Okay, I'm going to show you an example of a bud. Then they also have what are called adventitious roots. Okay, then they also store food. When we did nutrition, we talked about plant storage organs. Okay, so we're just going, it's the same thing. They are part of the perinating organs. So let's take a look at some of them. I think you can call some names such as root tubers, stem tubers, combs, suckers, bulbs, and rhizomes. So just to remind you, let's take a look at the pictures of all these. So this is a root tuber. Okay, it's a carrot, but it's an example of a root tuber. Then we also have this, which is an example of a stem tuber. So these are plant storage organs that are also perinating organs. They help in making sure that natural vegetative propagation occurs. Okay, another example of these perinating organs are these, which are called combs. Okay, we also have these two types, which are bulbs like onions, and these ones, which are rhizomes. Okay, we also have leaves. So there are these types of leaves. We know food in plants is made in leaves, but we also have leaves that store food. Okay, then we also have runners. Okay, these are runners. As you can see, they have roots here. Then again some point roots just like that. They are called runners. Okay, all right. Next, and this is what we're going to conclude, we look at artificial vegetative propagation. So we're going to look at different I think 4 types of artificial vegetative propagation, how they occur, and examples of plants where these artificial methods can be carried out. So the examples of these artificial vegetative propagations include stem cuttings. Okay, so these are stem cut just below the node and planted to produce new plants. What's a node? Okay, I think a picture can help you to understand what a node, and of course I've also promised that I'll show you what a bud is, so I'll show you a node and a bud for plants. Okay, so adventitious roots develop from the node, and the buds on the stem develop into shoots, giving rise to new plants. Okay, so for you to understand, we have this. I think you know what this is. This can be sugarcane. So this joint here, this, okay, it's a node. this is a node, another node here. Okay, so these are called nodes. Okay, the points where like two stems are meeting. Okay, then this part here, this leaf like, is called a bud. Okay, so when you have a bud on a node, you can cut this node. Okay, when you cut this node, you are going to get this stem, you plant it. When you plant it, adventitious roots are going to develop from here. Okay, so they will become roots, then the bud will develop into a shoot. Okay, so that's how stem cutting method occurs. Okay, so examples of plants that can be propagated in this way are sugar. So the next method is called grafting. So in grafting, what happens is you get two stems. Okay, one is called a stalk, the other one is called the scion. Okay, so a stalk is a stem where the upper part has been cut off, or we're not interested in the upper part. Okay, so we're just interested in the bottom part because it has already developed root system. Okay, so this stem here, we're just interested in the bottom part here because here they are below. Of course we can't see, but they must have there are roots which are already developed. They are just there in the soil. Okay, so we are just interested in the bottom part. So this part is called the stalk, where the upper part has been cut off. Then we get another stem which has the bottom part cut off. This stem must have buds already. Buds are the ones that are going to develop into shoots. Okay, so this stem that has buds is the one that we're going to merge with the stalk, and it's the one that is called the scion. Okay, so these two must be merged perfectly. Okay, for this process to occur. It's also advisable that they should have the same diameter for this to occur successfully. So this is how grafting is done. So in words, this involves bringing together a stalk and a scion coming from two closely related plants, meaning plants of the same species or genus. The stalk is the part whose upper part has been cut off, and it provides an already established root system that is responsible for absorbing water and mineral salts. Well, the scion is the upper part that bears buds which later form the shoots. So this is the part that has the desired stem, leaves, flowers and fruits. So when you want to do this process, the scion should be the part that you are interested in, that whose fruits or leaves or whatever whatever reason why you want to do to propagate these two plants, or to mix these two plants. This is the part that should have all those desirable features. Okay, before you can propagate them, before you can join them using grafting. So this method can be enhanced by, first, the stalk and scion are cut with complementary shapes that fit into each other before being tied together. Also, this method works well if the stalk and scion have identical diameters. So an example of a plant that can be propagated using grafting are roses. So next we look at a process called budding. So in budding, we also have a stalk and a scion. Okay, so what acts as a stalk is the bark of an already existing plant, like a plant that has already established or developed the root system that is able to provide water and mineral salt to the upper parts. So when you have this plant, you cut out part of the bark. Okay, so as you are cutting out, you make sure that you leave some cambium. Okay, what is cambium? Remember, we talked about xylem, we talked about phloem, we talked about cambium. Cambium is a region of active cell division. Okay, in short, it's the one that produces new structures. Okay, so you make sure that the cambium is not the part of the cambium should be left out. Okay, so you cut but not that deep so that the cambium is left out. Okay, when you do that, you get another plant that has the desirable feature. This plant, you get the back but with a bud. Okay, this acts as the scion. Okay, so it has a bud here. This bud is the one that's going to grow into a new shoot. So when you get this back which has been cut into a T shape, a T shape is you cut it in such a way that you cut this part, then you cut around. Okay, the idea is we want to wrap this around this part. Okay, that's why I want this T shape. Okay, so when you do that, you can also here you make sure that when you cut, you leave a bit of cambium here, so that this cambium and the cambium that is here, they should join, and the two are going to make sure that this bud develops into a shoot. So when you do that, when you do that, you are going to tie the two parts together and make sure that the bud is free, and this is going to develop into a shoot. Okay, so in summary or in words, this is a type of vegetative propagation where a bud is used as a scion and the back of an entire plant used as a stalk. The bud is cut in such a way that it has some cambium. A T-shaped cut is made in the scion, or of course in the part that has a bud reaching up to the cambium. Then the bud is inserted into the T-shaped part of the stalk in such a way that the cambium from the two parts is in contact. The two parts are tied together and sealed with wax, leaving the bud exposed. The wax prevents excessive transpiration. Okay, so you have to put some wax so that excessive transpiration does not occur, because if there is excessive transpiration, the whole system can dry out and propagation is going to be impossible. An example of a plant that goes through that can be propagated using budding is citrus fruits. The last one is layering. So this process is involved in layering. First, you remove a ring of bark from a low-lying branch of plant to expose the cambium. So if you have a branch that is almost reaching the ground, you get it, then you remove a ring of the bark so that a cambium remains. Okay, so after doing this, you cover the wounded part of the branch with moist soil to stimulate the development of adventitious roots. So this part that has been exposed, that has the cambium, you cover it with moist soil. This is so as to make sure that adventitious roots come out from it. Then after this, you separate the branch from the parent plant once it has developed new roots and shoots. So an example of a plant that can be propagated using layering is strawberry plants. Okay, so and of course a diagram can help. So this is how layering occurs. Okay, so in layering, if there is a branch that is lying closer to the ground, you just get it, you remove the bark, making sure that the cambium is exposed. When you do that, you cover it with moist soil, as in here. Okay, then of course you can even put something to support with time. Of course, when the shoot starts developing, you can put something to support this young shoot. Okay, then with time, as this is developing, when you see that it can now stand on its own, it can feed itself, it's able to be to survive without parents, you can cut off this part so that this is free. This is layering. So this marks the end of the first part of reproduction. In the second part, we're going to take a look at plant reproduction. Happy